Hello again and welcome back to my shop. Lately I've received a number of questions regarding the process that I use for applying CA glue to my pens. I thought I would take a little bit of time today and run through that process. Now, by no means is this the only way to apply CA glue, and I'm not saying it's the best way to apply CA glue. It's just the way that works for me and the way that I do it. So I hope you can take what I do and build on that to develop your own method and improve the process of applying CA to your pens. So, without any further ado, here's how I apply CA. I've got a really nice pecan blank on the lathe. This is a piece of pecan that was given to me by fellow woodworker Laney Shaughnessy. Some of you guys may know Laney. I've already sanded this down to 400, and I have used a little bit of denatured alcohol to clean the blank. So I'm ready to start applying my CA finish. Now, when I start to apply finish, the first thing I do is take a look at the blank. Some woods like pecans and oaks and even cocobolo, they'll have little voids in the wood where the grain is. So that changes the way that I apply my CA. Normally, I would apply CA to a paper towel and wipe it on the blank. When I have little voids like this, I like to drool the CA over top of the blank while running the paper towel below the blank. That puts a much thicker coat of CA on the blank and lets it seep down into those voids and seal them so that the pen is nice and smooth. Before we get started, here's a quick tip. When applying CA glue, I like to take a little painter's tape and put it on my finger, and I'll wrap another piece around it just to keep it on there. And what this does is keeps the CA from getting on my finger, because as you know, if you get CA on your finger and there's any dampness on your finger at all, it really burns. This does not affect me working with the blank. It allows me to hold the paper towel and run it right under the blank. Any CA gets deposited on the tape, and I don't have to spend a week peeling it off my finger. I start by cutting a paper towel in half and then cutting it into strips roughly 1 inch wide. I fold them in half, and then I fold them in half again to form the pad that I'm going to use underneath of the blank. My lathe is running at its lowest possible speed, and like I said, simply because this blank had a lot of stop and finish. Now, notice what I did there. This blank had a lot of voids in it, so I wanted to drool the CA glue on to fill those voids. And you notice as I went across the blank, I stopped right about halfway and then finished the wipe. The reason why I do that is if you don't stop and remove the bottle from the blank, you're going to push a big glob of CA glue down here to the end of the blank, and then you're going to have a hump on the end of your blank that you've got to deal with. And you don't want that, since you spent so much time getting this blank to line up with your bushings so that the parts of your pen fit neatly with the blank. All right, about 30 seconds has passed, and that thing is dry to the touch. You'll notice I've got a little bit of plastic or paper sticking to my taped up finger, and that's not sticking to my finger, so I don't have to deal with that being on my finger for the next week. So that's where the tape comes in handy. Let's grab another piece of towel, fold it once again, and let's put another coat of glue on. And stop. I'll generally wipe back and forth once or twice just to level everything, and give it about 30 seconds to dry, and we'll be ready for another coat. All right, the blank is dry. Let's get it again. There we go. At this point, I've got 3 coats on my blank. I'm taking a look at it. I've got my light shining down. I'm looking from the side, and I can see that those voids are already starting to level up. I don't want to sand yet. Normally, I'd put 3 coats, and then I would run through my micro mesh pads to level it out. But since I'm working with filling these voids, I'm going to go ahead and put 1, maybe 2 more coats on before I do my micro mesh sanding. And I'm going to continue to apply from the top. Stop and finish. I have been turning the camera off between coats because I'm not using accelerator. The first 2 coats took about 30 to 40 seconds to dry. The next 2 coats took about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes each to dry. You could use accelerator. I have in the past. It works very well. I'm just out of it at the moment, so I'm just letting the lathe continue to spin for an extra minute or so and letting it dry naturally. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply 1 more coat of CA, 1 more thick coat. We're going to let that dry thoroughly, and then we're going to go at this with the micro mesh pads. I gave this blank a good probably 4 to 5 minutes to dry, and it is perfectly dry to the touch. It's relatively smooth. You can feel some little nubbies on there, but I'm getting ready to take those off with the micro mesh pads. My pads have seen a lot of use, but they still have some life left in them. If you're not familiar with micro mesh, there are 6 different grits from about 800 down to 12,000, I believe, and they're color coded, so it's always yellow, green, orange, purple, blue, gray, and as long as you go in that order, these will do an amazing job with acrylic blanks, but they also do a great job with a CA finish. You just don't want to put a lot of pressure because our finish is relatively thin and we don't want to take it off, so we're going to use some light pressure. We're going to wet the pads before we use them, and between each pad we're going to wipe the slurry off with a paper towel. A real quick note before we get started, I used 6 coats to basically seal that blank by drilling it on. I used thin CA glue. I could have used medium and probably gotten by with 2 or 3 coats, but when using medium, I recommend using the accelerator because it takes quite a bit longer to dry, and my problem is I'm out of accelerator, so that's why I went ahead and used 6 coats of the thin versus 2 or 3 coats of the medium. All right, we start off by just wetting the pad and lightly rubbing it on the blank. I always use the yellow pad a little bit longer than the others, maybe 2 swipes, simply because I'm trying to knock everything down. Make sure you get close to the bushings. And you can see it doesn't take a very long amount of time. It's relatively a quick process. You just want to make sure you go through the pads in the right color combination. And I'm dipping it each time, getting it wet. Alright, I'm just going to dry the blank off a little bit. Okay, got a really nice finish there. We're ready to apply a little more CA glue. I'm just rotating the blank, looking to see if there are any deep divots in it, and it looks very smooth. The CA has done a good job filling the cracks, and sanding it has allowed me to sort of level it out a little bit, and it looks great. So we're just going to go now. We're going to apply the CA to a rag and wipe it on the blank. Now this is going to dry extremely fast, probably 15-20 seconds because it's such a thin coat. And you want to be very careful when you put that first coat on after sanding, because if there's any moisture left on the blank or any moisture left on your finger, that glue is just going to boil that quick and it will burn you. So that's once again why I use this, but also your towel can stick to your blank if you don't move it quickly. And that blank is literally already dry, so we're going to hit it with another coat. I just basically apply some CA to the rag, wipe it once or twice, get it away from the blank, let it spin and dry. In real time, that blank is dry. That was real time. What do we do, 15-20 seconds? I'm going to apply another couple of coats, and then I'm going to evaluate the blank and probably sand it one more time with the micro mesh, and then hit it with a couple of additional coats, and I think we're ready to buff. Just like that, there's 3 coats. I'm going to slow the lathe down. I'm just going to look at the blank. It's looking fantastic. I'm going to give it 1, maybe 2 more coats, and then I'm going to sand it again. So let's check for dry, and she's bone dry. Okay, that was real time and dry to the touch. 1 more coat. Okay, I've put, I believe, 5 additional coats on there. Normally I put about 3 to 4, and then I sand, but I went 5 this time. So I'm going to go ahead, get my micro mesh out, and I'm going to do a very light, very quick sanding. Then we're going to put 3 finish coats over it, and we're ready to polish. All right, this is going to be really quick because I don't really want to sand much away. I'm just trying to scuff up the surface, get rid of any scratches or any little points that might be sticking up from the glue. So I do a real quick sanding here. Now we're going to try it. We've wiped the slurry off the blank. I'm trying to dry the blank as good as possible. All right, make sure there's no lint left from the paper towel on there. And we're ready to apply our 3 final coats of CA. And these should go relatively fast because they're going to be thin. Once again, I'm just applying it to the towel and wiping it on. And real time, it looks like we are probably dry. Perfect. Let's put another coat. And the CA is dry, and we're ready for polish. I like to use a little one-step polish. There are many good acrylic polishes. This just happens to be the one that I have in my shop, and I apply it the same way I apply the CA glue. I fold up a piece of towel, and we're just going to put a liberal amount on the towel and buff it really well into the blank. Let it spin for a second. Then with a clean paper towel, we're just going to buff it off like you would wax on the hood of your car. You can already see the blank starting to really reflect the light. It's looking a lot better. It looks really amazing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put one more coat of the wax. That's just something that I like to do. It doesn't say that you have to do it on the bottle, but I always have applied 2 coats, and that works well for me. Just going to buff it in really good. Bring out a clean rag and buff it off. Just kind of rotating the rag around to a clean section so I make sure I get every little bit of that polish off the blank. And there we have it, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Now, one thing that you'll notice if you've ever polished your blank and noticed the polish is, you kind of see it between the grain. That's because we didn't do a good job of filling our cracks in our blank. So by drilling that CA glue on, we filled those, and I see no remnants of wax on this blank anywhere. Thank you for joining me today in the shop. I hope you enjoyed this video on how I like to do a CA glue finish. I think the pen turned out absolutely fantastic. I love it. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, please. If you have a question or a comment, leave them down below. I answer all questions. I respond to all comments. If you are not a subscriber, I invite you to click that subscribe button, and you'll be notified through your YouTube feed of any future videos that I do. Thank you for joining me today, and I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me real soon, and have a great day.